time? Well, break time. Sorry, I might be the only teacher. So spring break.
About to say, what's the break?
One of the benefits
Yes.
of teaching is I get.
I hope you had a mouthful break.
Yes, yes.
Well, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, well, welcome. I do want to make a quick announcement before we get started. I just received notice yesterday or the day before that Solar has recognized PlanRVA as an outstanding community service award, and a lot of that has to do with Martha Schickel's work. And Solar is the Friends of the Lower Appomattox River, and later on, I guess if you wanted to talk more about it, I just thought it was cool that we got recognized again, or that you got recognized again. So like, Central Virginia is looking better and better every day. Can we have a roll call?
Yes. Town of Ashland, Chair McGraw.
Present.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Present.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Engel.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhour.
Here.
Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Present.
Henrico County, Reverend Nelson. Newcastle County, Vice Chair Stewart.
I'm here in spirit, not in body.
Thank you. Powhatan County, Mr. McClung. And City of Richmond, Dr. James.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call for attendance. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. So we have Jordan Stewart on virtual with us. Ms. Stewart, can you state the reason why you can't be in person?
Yes, a scheduling conflict.
Excellent. I think that's a fair enough reason. I'd like a motion to approve her ability to participate remotely.
So second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Thank you, Ms. Stewart. You're welcome to participate. Maybe a thumbs up or a notice when you want to speak. I'm not sure. I'll do my best to keep my eye on the screen so that I don't ignore you. Sometimes
Okay,
it's
thank you.
tricky. You're welcome. Just jump. All right. Let's see. All right, any considerations or amendments to our agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. This is a public comment time. Anybody either remotely or in person would like to comment publicly? All right, seeing none, we move on. Approval of our February 13th, 25 meeting minutes.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Standing committee, chair, my reports, our priorities are, I have the wrong agenda? Yeah. Oops. New business. I don't know why I started the wrong one. Wow, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, new business then. Is that where we're at now?
Yes.
Thank you. Martha.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I think by the time we get to the June 12th commission meeting, I hope you all won't be sick of hearing about this, but it will probably be so repetitive that you could give the presentation yourself. This morning, we have in the packets for both the full commission and this morning's executive committee meeting, the regional strategic vision document. It is a format that you should be familiar with. We've seen it a few times now before, but just to kind of give a recap, because we're approaching the June 12th commission meeting where the board at the full commission will be asked to vote on this vision. This is a step in PlanRVA's direction to fulfill our requirement for under the Regional Cooperation Act. Planning district commissions are required to prepare a regional strategic plan. And the code identifies the topics that you're probably familiar with: the infrastructure, economic development, the built environment, health, housing, tourism. I think is included in there as topics that may be included in that regional strategic plan. And then annually, we submit a report to the Department of Housing and Community Development regarding the status of that plan and our accomplishments in implementing said plan. Over the last year, we've taken a sort of a fresh approach to fulfilling this requirement and really seeking to hold the functional area plan, so our long-range transportation plan, our hazard mitigation plan, our climate pollution reduction plan, those topic area plans, and really try to fold them under this bigger umbrella of the regional strategic plan so that they lock up a little bit better. And that we're frankly not reinventing the wheel while we're doing these mandated plans. We're not also doing another thing that kind of is disconnected and disjointed. So really our hope is that this effort by creating this umbrella vision helps to create more of a uniform direction for each of those component plans. And then it also becomes a set of vision targets that are reflective of our local government's individual objectives. So we started on this process about a year ago. Our staff started to review each of your local government comprehensive plans and strategic plans to identify key common themes that existed throughout each of those 9 local plans. And then we've gone through a pretty extensive discernment process, I'll say, by sharing this with you in an iterative process over the last 9 or so months. Our public outreach committee met in May last year. We've brought it to the board a couple times, but one of the things that we did at the joint annual meeting in December was give a presentation of the vision themes. We've shared with our community stakeholders, other regional organizations, because we see an opportunity to really align with organizations like the Greater Richmond Partnership, Richmond Region Tourism, Central Virginia Waste Management Authority, Go Virginia, and Partnership for Housing Affordability to make sure that as we work in coordination with these other regional groups, this strategic vision can be realized through their efforts as well. And then we've also then been reviewing the text for alignment with our federal guidelines that we're receiving on an evolving basis. So this document that's included in your packet today has been advertised. We've had publications advertised in publications around the region to be able to have regional distribution of media. And a letter was sent with a CC, it's included in your packet, to our local government administrators, informing them of the schedule for review of this strategic vision for ultimate approval request with the June 12th meeting. So just wanted to update you on where we are with this process, and also to be able to share a little bit more information, which Sarah Stewart on our team will provide at the full commission meeting, about how this all really works together. But essentially, the idea is that we take these core component plans and they all fall under the central themes of this strategic vision. And the themes are listed in your packet, but they include strategic and resilient infrastructure, a healthy environment, attainable housing, a strong economy, and opportunity and choice for everyone. Take a pause and ask if you have any questions. Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just want to commend the entire organization, the leadership in the organization. So while we rolled out on September 5th of last year, those 5 core components, it was much like a comprehensive plan. It had been worked on for quite some time to get to the point where we could get to naming it Pathways to the Future and rolling out those 5 core components. And I just wanted to emphasize something Ms. Shipley talked about, that all of these are interconnected. We were talking about infrastructure. That was a big deal. The emergency management plan kind of came into that. The attainable housing, talking with Mr. Spoonhauer over a number of years, how some localities are better poised for working on affordable housing maybe than some others, but coming together in the, more of a collaborative. I don't want to keep using these cliche words, but where maybe Hanover and Goochland, as an example, didn't have as much opportunity for affordable housing because of land acquisition, so on and so forth. We could be part of the discussion in supporting other localities where maybe that initiative could be advanced a little bit quicker, some of the higher density areas and more of the suburban areas. So while we did roll these out on, I think it was was it December 5th? Was that the annual meeting? Whatever day that was. We rolled those out. This had been a work in progress through many chairs. Actually, I think it started Dr. Newbell's chair, kind of rolling through. And so the last thing that I would say was talking about healthy environment. There was some talk because when this first started, the Shoe Smith project in Chesterfield, those talks, I mean, all of those things come together, and so they don't stand alone. And I was just really happy to see after the December meeting, the joint annual meeting, this get advanced as quickly as it did, because there's certain requirements in there that colleagues need to meet, we need to meet. But just to re-emphasize what the executive director was talking about, all of these are interconnected and don't stand alone and serve maybe more of a purpose and benefit in some localities because they have opportunity to work, say, on housing as an example. But they're all connected, and many of these meet other state and federal mandates for the work that we have to do. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Any other comment?
We intentionally set it up so that Sarah would give the presentation to the full commission, so we have a little bit of variety for you this morning. So she's a more enthusiastic presenter than I am, so it'll be better in the second round. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next, if we go next item.
Sure.
Great. I just wanted to update you on where I am with a scheduled plan to review and update our succession management plan. I'll just say first and foremost, this is not a signal of any kind of changes, but as you all know from organizational continuity and best practices, it's good to have a plan in place to be able to deal with either short or long-term vacancies of key staff. This board took action in fiscal year 2022. We started a process in calendar 21, and then it carried over into the beginning of 2022 to develop a policy for succession management plan in the event that there's a shorter or long-term vacancy in my role for the executive director position. And that plan was adopted that year, and it identified a couple of other tasks, kind of a guidance set of recommendations for me to consider in thinking about additional criteria for identifying high-performing and high-potential employees, and also incorporating cross-training and succession management for key leadership positions. It also suggested that there be a regular schedule to review that succession management plan that the board adopted, just to make sure it still makes sense as the organization evolves. So we had scheduled that would occur this fiscal year, and I've done that. This is just an update today on kind of progress to date, with the idea that at your next meeting in June, I would come back to you with a recommendation of an updated succession management plan that really just is updated. Well, number one, I find the document to be a little clunky. And so just being able to sit with it for a while, I feel like there's just some, yes.
Little what?
Clunky.
Clunky, okay.
Yeah, it just feels, it's so many if then statements, and it's almost like it just could be simpler, it feels like. So I've made an attempt to kind of just streamline the steps and activities to bring back so that it feels a little bit more just easier to follow. And then also have some updates to reflect the current organizational structure that we have, because we have had a change in how our staff positions are. A great example is last summer, this board and the TPO appointed me as the executive director of the TPO. And so we want to make sure that those duties are incorporated into the succession management plan and that kind of thing. So again, this is not any kind of preparatory effort for me to, I'm not sending you a signal of anything. I'm just trying to
Just look.
adhere to, I can see your facial expression. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have a still a workable policy, since it is a policy that's in place. The other thing that I think is more interesting, and I'm frankly more excited about, is the recommendations that were included in that original plan around the additional opportunities that we have to enhance our organizational continuity. And so we'll be developing administratively succession plans for our senior leadership team. And so again, thinking about our organizational continuity and resiliency, if despite the fact that we have about 32 employees, we're still pretty lean. And so really thinking about cross-training in a more innovative way and making sure that we've got a plan in place so that if, for example, I was counseled recently not to say if somebody gets hit by a bus, if they win the lottery, then we've got a plan in place to be able to support them in whatever their next more joyful endeavor might be. But also, I think we're trying to face the reality of if someone needs to take some sort of period of medical leave, or they want to just go on vacation for a week or two, we have the ability to make sure that those critical duties are covered. And so really developing that succession plan for our leadership team will be a big part of that. Identifying those areas where we can do cross training and make sure that we've got that redundancy on key operating things. And then I've been looking at how to incorporate some of our other just general operating practices into this to think more holistically about what continuity looks like, and to think about this as more of a proactive retention plan, so that we can make sure that the staff team that we've built, that we're really proud of, and the caliber and talent of the people that we have on our team want to stay here. And so for me, it's sort of, these buckets probably blend a little bit, but it really comes down to a handful of buckets for me. So really thinking about how to codify a bit more in the culture building space. So, what do we do around staff engagement, building a stronger practice of recognition when we achieve key milestones, whether it's like the announcement that you did this morning of those kinds of community acknowledgements. We're not the greatest at celebrating those kinds of things. So how do we get better at that? Really laying out more clearly for staff the support that we provide for education and training, so on and so forth. I don't need to read all of these to you. We've set as an initiative in the coming fiscal year to really take a hard look at our employee benefits, not just from a cost control perspective, but to make sure that we're offering the right set of benefits that are competitive in today's marketplace. And then again, thinking about when we do recruitment practices, it's a great time with the new guidance that's coming down that's focused on anti-discrimination, really how to make sure that our recruitment practices are in line with the current requirements that we have of our grants. Finally, then, I mentioned before this notion of supporting our high performing and high potential employees. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here where staff members are asking, what's my pathway here at PlanRVA? And the reality that we are a small organization. So how do we create opportunities for staff members to think about their pathway within PlanRVA, but also in the greater Richmond region, if that's their desire? And then finally, really expanding on things that we set in motion several years ago around feedback and continuous improvement. So we do periodically do staff satisfaction surveys. It's not on a regular frequency, so I think we could look at how to incorporate that into a more regular schedule. We have incorporated more of an opportunity for a 360 evaluation system, but I think leaning into that even more. And then I'd love to be able to introduce more of a project debriefing and evaluation so that when we actually complete a project, we can do some evaluation to know what went well, what can we replicate, what went wrong that we can avoid doing again, and really incorporating more of our external stakeholders in that process. I think that this aligns really nicely with things that were set up this year with our executive committee and the satisfaction survey that is also on the agenda this morning, but it just sort of helps to bring, I think, all of that coming through to the whole of the organization. So a lot of this, the last two slides may not come to you in a complete package. It'll be in pieces and parts as we need to think about different components, personnel policy updates, if there are recommendations for how we should approach a change in our benefits package, those kinds of things. But I wanted to be able to lay out kind of a bigger picture of how I'm thinking about this heading into the next fiscal year and what's coming on our agenda.
Any comments or questions? Okay. So I guess we're moving on to officer rotation.
I just want to, if you don't mind, I love all of this. I think this is right in my wheelhouse of like where I get passionate. The one thing that I want to caution, well, two things to focus on really. One, as we talk about the employee leave, I want to make sure that we are balancing that with business needs as well, because I've heard over the last couple of years at budget time, we struggle with that policy and budgeting. So we either need to get our fiscal hands around that so that we can have a competitive employee leave strategy. And with the attrition piece of that, I love the fact that you pointed out outside of PlanRVA, because as too often organizations think that all attrition is negative. That's absolutely not true. Helping people get to the position that they want to, even if they're not in their organization, has huge benefits. Take Goochland County, for example, we realize that we've turned into a stepping stone county, that somebody's gonna come, give 3 to 5 years of their best work, and then they're gonna go someplace that's much larger. So just that we keep those things in mind, great, but overall, I just think this is fantastic.
I'll be leaning on you for probably some support over the next couple months.
Sure. Good, those are great comments. Thank you. Anyone else? Right. Well, now we'll turn to our officer rotations. The nice thing about our organization is we don't ask for nominations from the floor necessarily. We have a succession plan ourselves of how we organize, assuming that everything goes the way it's intended. New Kent, Jordan Stewart will take over, assuming Ms. Stewart still is ready for that, and New Kent's ready for that. Don't. Okay.
Is this when I'm supposed to say we are ready for that?
Yeah, I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
I should have been more direct, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're poised and ready.
All right, and then after that, it would be Charles City.
I think we'll be ready.
Okay, and then after that, then Richmond will be back,
Yes.
and then Henrico. We don't see Henrico in here today.
No.
And then Goochland, once again, that's where I started, was with Goochland was the chair. Then Chesterfield. Hanover. And then Powhatan. Let's see. Any discussions on any of these or any thoughts?
I just know when I handed the gavel over to Chesterfield, coming up again in rotation seems so far away. It doesn't seem as far now. So I don't know what that says about how old I'm getting.
It does go much faster than expected. I think I served as secretary for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then I went from like treasurer to like chair.
There you go.
Or something to that effect. And I think similar happened to you, like you came on in the next year. Yeah.
We have a well laid out plan. We'll see how it goes.
So far, it's gone well, relatively well. All right. Go back to my agenda.
Me again.
All right, moving on to our key imperatives.
So this is again, not new information. I will say that the slide in front of you is a little bit different than what you have in your packet, just because I've been fiddling with this since we mailed out the packet on the 31st, but the essence is still the same. I've just been kind of thinking about refining language. So when Mr. Spoonhour was the chair, he challenged me to really try to boil down the breadth of the things that we seek to accomplish at this agency into, I think you probably said 3 things, and Mr. Davis, I didn't follow instructions again and I did 5. I think that that's a common theme. So I've been working on this, and there's a lot of consistency over time from that year that we kicked off this notion of key imperatives. I did a crosswalk earlier this spring as I was just doing some reflecting about where we've been as an agency coming out of 2019 when you led our strategic planning effort, and then to where we are today. A lot has happened with this organization. You know, tangible things like us moving the office space, but then also maybe some more intangible things about just how we've navigated, really, when you think about it, from 2019 to 2025. A lot of the assumptions that we had in 2018 and 2019 have been challenged as we think about how this organization can operate and serve the region during that time. Navigating a pandemic was not on my radar in our strategic planning process in 2018 and 19, and I think we navigated that fairly well. We've certainly been on a path of improvement and really shoring up our financial sustainability. And, you know, I think that we are in much better place to be able to weather any type of storm, whether it be through economic conditions or just, you know, from a diversity of funding and a mix of resources that this agency draws in have really just completely evolved over the last few years. And so I'm really proud of where we are as an organization and the work that our staff have done to get us here. We have an incredibly talented staff. I can tell you, just because I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary, which is hard to believe. I just cannot believe, some days it feels like it's my first day, and then other days it feels like I've been here for a little longer than 10 years, but it's just really remarkable to think about the profile of this organization and how it's really elevated in the region, and I think in a really positive way. We have students that are regularly reaching out who are studying urban and regional planning at VCU who want to be connected with this organization in some way. And when I first joined this team, that was not the case. Faculty members were actually maybe steering folks a little bit away from our organization. So it's just really exciting to think about how far we've come and the progress that we've made. So kind of on that journey, I thought about, the first difference between what you see on the screen and what's in the packet is sort of reordering these. I try to be a little bit more thoughtful about thinking about almost a story that sits behind this. And so that bottom one, really has always been our foundational piece, the ensuring compliance and agency sustainability. And it has been the bedrock of the efforts that we've had underway, leading with financial integrity, really focusing on talent training, and more recently technology, and really how we can leverage that to make sure that our staff stays lean and mean, but also as efficient and productive as possible. And then we've had a lot more conversations internally recently about really how our organization has evolved to be this leader in our sector, not just across the region, but across the country with some of the national recognitions and awards. I think a couple months ago, I announced that Sulab is going to be putting together a team from Monterrey, Mexico. They're coming to visit us in May, to learn about what we're doing with scenario planning. I mean, it's just incredible to think that there's a delegation coming to Richmond, Virginia to talk to us about what we're doing in the field of planning. So just keeping that as our kind of foundational bedrock, I think that one of the things that have come through with our branding effort a few years ago was really this idea that one of the maybe key ingredients to our secret sauce is that this role of convener. We don't have to be the subject matter expert in topics at our staff level, but really our value add is the fact that we bring you all to the table and you have the chance to communicate and dialogue with one another. So really emphasizing, I think, in this coming year, how to continue to build on that commissioner engagement and our connections with our member jurisdictions is really important. At the same time, we've really built that stronger profile in our community. We've honed made a lot of progress in our community engagement, our outreach and awareness. And I think that many of the partnerships that we've been able to develop really have been able to take the work of our 30 people and amplify that, so that we've been able to produce events that feel like they should be produced by a much larger team, but it's because of those partnerships that we have. We've been talking about data for years. It's a core function of planning district commissions. And so really being able to build out our infrastructure there with the investment in our data team and moving the regional indicators project forward is continuing to be a key priority for us. And then with the anticipation of our regional strategic plan, really being able to make sure that those core and supporting plans are in alignment with that vision. And then as the RVA Rising Economic Mobility Initiative continues to evolve and unfold, just making sure that we're emphasizing the opportunities where we can create those economic mobility wins. And then I know that for the last at least 2 years, there's been this key emphasis about making sure that in all of that convening and data and regional planning, we don't lose sight of the fact that this is a member organization, and we need to make sure that our staff are oriented to our customers, which are the 9 local governments, and making sure that we're available and accessible. And so I think that we've made some good strides this fiscal year and really being able to have some more concrete ways that we are supporting or available to support our member jurisdictions. And one of the new places I think that we can really shine is in leveraging our grant writing and grant management skill set. I know that while the opportunities may be shifting a little bit, we've really got a stellar staff member here who has really just been phenomenal in thinking about how to approach a grant writing opportunity and we've dabbled a little bit this fiscal year in helping some of our local governments with grant opportunities. I think that that's a new service that we can really come out in next fiscal year to offer to our local governments. So I'm telling you all this because this is kind of the outline that I'm using in developing the work program as we head into the budget and the work program development for next fiscal year. And so I wanted to be able to put this in front of you today and get any kind of feedback. If I've missed the mark on any area that you think we really need to be focusing for next fiscal year, I want to make sure that that's incorporated in now so that when we put the work program together to come back to you in June, it's reflective of what you think our priorities should be.
Gonna do the appropriate wait time before I move on.
I'll kick us off.
All right.
Shy this morning, I guess. So again, love this, obviously. I do think order matters in this, especially top and bottom. One of the things I think that we might consider, especially based on the conversation we had last month, that ensuring compliancy and agency sustainability in these uncertain times with the federal government, that maybe that takes a higher ranking than typical years. Yes, we have done a great job from where we were 5 years ago, but maybe just for this year, maybe something to focus on. And again, based on a lot of the conversation last month. With the key imperatives, one of the things that is important, and I think it helps to digest, is what are you going to measure? So how will you know if we've hit these? So what are the success metrics behind it? And with that, my last comment, Mr. Chair, will be from the data-driven research and analysis. I'd love to see that blown out more, especially since the main argument for raising people's dues was to be able to buy the software to support data-driven. So I think we need to blow that out more to make sure that we encapsulate, hey, we raised everybody's dues so that we could spend it on this program or whatever it was to get data, make sure that that's highlighted. That'd be my initial thoughts. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I would concur with the movement in the context of Project 2025 and everything else going on, but especially that. I think that's going to be critical to ensure compliance and agency sustainability, especially, for the organization.
Good point.
And I think it's there's great strategic intentionality here for me and the organization, how we're, looking prospectively. I especially just the beginning efforts in terms of commending the region, the work around education that we did, Mr. Ingles leading in. I think it portends opportunity for even greater collaboration. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I think the same way, and I was thinking the same way as you, Mr. Spoonhour, about how we measure it. And I kind of thought we were on that path when we created that tool for localities to say, hey, these are the imperatives, these are initiatives. Do you feel like it's impacting or you feel like you're receiving it? And I love how you said you wanted to make this a story, and I won't be the chair then, but it would be wonderful, I think, if around this time next year, there was one story for each one of those strategic imperatives that you could say, this was our top story, but we did that. Like we're reaching out to the localities, or we're convening the localities, and here's the story that goes with it. The actual story, like whether it's, planning out where affordable housing could be. We actually found a spot, we found a customer, we worked with X and X localities together. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I just think it would be interesting and also uplifting to be able to say, this is exactly what we did. Can't do it all. as Manara said before, like just narrow it down to a few things. But if you were able to find one in each one of those categories, and I think that would be fantastic. And I think it'd be worthwhile discussing either now or in the future, whether that tool that Martha created for the survey, whether that was effective for you, not effective, you'd rather have more of a narrative, you have less, more, I think we narrowed it down to like 7 questions, is that right? Maybe 8 questions, it wasn't many, it was kind of.
7.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure 7's always been in my head, like things should be 7 or less when you're asking people things, because it gets time consuming. And so anyway, we want to narrow it down to 5, like that's fine too, but anyway. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, just one that you sparked. So the convene the region one sticks out to me. It's interesting that you bumped it up to number 1 because I think we need to be careful that the things that we're engaging with, especially when we're leading, I know that takes a lot of time. And we need to ask ourselves, if we're engaging, we're saying we're going to partner with somebody to do something for the sake of why are we doing it? And I think it should be more than just getting our name out there. I feel like that was a challenge maybe, 5, 6 years ago, but I think we're relative. So from an advertising perspective, is your brand known? I think we have a very strong brand now. So now we need to move into what are the values what's the value that we bring to somebody? So here's what are our features and benefits. So as long as we're convening, our goals around convening the region are for the sake of ensuring that people understand the planning assistance driving the data. I think we need to be careful of that because I don't want us to move into a place where, we need to get everybody together. Everybody just goes, that was PlanRVA's role. Is it? Maybe it is, but maybe it isn't.
Martha's not, she's still
Yeah,
digesting what you said.
yeah.
No, I mean, I think I'm agreeing, or I think I'm receiving everything you're saying positively.
It's meant to be.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm seeing the opportunity to reorder these in a way that probably do emphasize the compliance and agency sustainability. And then I think you're right. I mean, the convening can't just be, we're not party planners. And
Right.
so really the
I think the thing
convening needs to
that
be
I
focused on the strategic vision and the core plan and the priorities of the local governments.
I think the thing that jumped out at me that even if for as long as I've been engaged with this organization, that I didn't realize was that 80% of our funding is federal, right? That's risky. We see right now that it's risky. So if something were to happen, do we have other stakeholders? Do we have other customers that we would be going after? And diversifying our service offering. So I do believe everything that we're doing, especially from a smaller locality, I've always seen the value in what PlanRVA offers. I still think we need to figure out, okay, do we want it to be 80%? And if we don't, then what are we doing to move that needle so that there's more of an investment locally?
Is that a new strategic plan?
It could be, it may not be.
Is that under sustainability?
It could
Or
be.
is that, okay. I think we're all agreed on that, that we would love to have.
Again, this is just brainstorming. It's just, to take it for what it's worth.
Oh, good. Well, we've got time, so we could go brainstorm some more, so it's okay. Ms. Stewart, you have any comments?
No, thank you. I just appreciate all of the thoughtful work that Martha's put into this, and I look forward to helping push it in the direction we all think it should go in the next year.
Good.
We expect you to make sure that all these are delivered on and if you're driving all these.
So,
Hey,
it
I
makes
just say it.
sense, it makes sense though, that if we're looking at what our imperatives are, and then we look at the questions that we ask the localities, maybe they should be more directed towards the imperatives instead of if as localities, we're all agreeing on the imperatives, the questions should change more to vibe around the imperatives instead of, which some of them may stay the same or might be a subset of the imperative, but it maybe. It might make sense that that's what we're checking to see if we think we've achieved is the things that we said were imperative.
Right. Well, I think the reason why we had 7 might have been because at least one of the questions was, is my locality receiving?
Yeah.
Like, and that's not, the imperative is not, will every locality receive
Mhm.
everything they want, but it would be.
Well, I would say it would
Yeah.
be an imperative that, well, that the locality is receiving the support
Yeah,
to the level that they need. Cause some localities need levels, a higher level or lower level than another. But I mean, that could actually come in under drive data research and that analysis, right? I mean, are you getting the support that you need at the local level as it relates to data research and analysis?
that's a good point. The word need is. See. You got me thinking. Yeah.
So in my mind, I think if I can talk this through a little bit, when I look at kind of Mr. Engel, like you're suggesting, when I look at question 1, I think that maps closely to the region. And is maybe not worded the way that it should be in light of what we were saying, Mr. Spoonhour, but you know, I think that there is an opportunity for this organization to make sure that we don't. It's not about the issue du jour, it's about what's the right issue for this organization to be engaged with. And so maybe there's an opportunity to really think about that question in the context of, we're not just convening for the sake of convening, we're convening because there's a unique value that this organization brings to that particular conversation. When I look at questions 2, 3, and 4, those feel like, to me, they map to the offering local planning assistance, really are our member jurisdictions getting what they need, kind of to your point, Mr. Engel, and that varies member jurisdiction to member jurisdiction, but I think that that's my idea there is to really ask that question a couple of ways to get at that. 5, I think, is back up to the convening. It is important for our staff to build relationships with your staff so that we are working, even when a project or a topic isn't necessarily raising to your email inbox, we're building those relationships with people on your local government teams. And in some cases, we're introducing people, colleagues to each other, which is also really helpful. I mean, sometimes we're not at the center of something, we're just making the connection so that colleagues can then work together and then we step away. 6 is a little bit more of kind of a marketing piece and I think if I recall the feedback on this one was kind of like maybe a little bit mixed, like, yeah, you do a good job of the communication, but I don't read the newsletter kind of thing. And I think that that's a constant struggle that organizations have of how do you keep, we're all inundated with newsletters and blogs and content, and it's hard to keep up with our email inboxes. So I think, I'm not sure that we found precisely the right way to make sure that you have the information that you need handy, but that's kind of what that question is driving at. And then 7, I think, was really geared more toward, if we're not meeting expectations around support, how do you, an invitation to flag that so that I can follow up with that jurisdiction to see like, where are we not hitting the mark and how do we do that? So the 7 questions don't hit each one of these 5 things. And so we could take a look at updating the questionnaire if you like that.
I think it should, I think the questionnaire should align with the key imperative.
Yeah.
And I think, throughout our meeting, there should be times when we're updated. Like we're hitting this mark with this imperative. This doesn't have to be long, just real quick. We touched on that imperative this time period, this quarter. We touched on these 3. This is how, so that when we get to the end of the year, the fiscal year, we can all as commissioners that feel confident that yes, we saw how data was used. Yes, we saw how.
And if you find something that we're asking about that's not in the key imperative, we need to be asking the question, should this be added as a key imperative or should we be dealing with this at all?
Yeah, it's like what gets measured gets done, right?
Yeah. That's good.
Would it be okay then, to bring this back, a reworked, I think I could rework the questionnaire and have it back on the agenda for June. Or actually, you meet in May, the executive committee meets in May, and the schedule for that is to do the executive director evaluation. I can have this for the May meeting, or I could circulate it. There's lots of
Well,
different ways we could.
This is for 2026. We can keep our current the way we did it, because the idea was to go from what we saw in the beginning to what we have. I don't want to change it right now.
Okay.
But for the future,
for the next year?
if the
Okay.
next chair feels the same way as I did, that having some type of tool was helpful, then I think that should match the imperatives for.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. So I could provide for your June meeting, rework these key imperatives to reflect the prioritization
order.
shift and the order. And really incorporate the success measures in that, and then a piece of that success measure is a proposed survey questionnaire that maps to this, that we'll use to evaluate us in 2026.
And your own story for each
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, okay, yes, I have that too.
Sorry, I didn't want to-
Story, yes. And I think just so that you don't feel like you miss out, we did, Emily and Ellen and Kristen and Holly and I had a meeting last week to talk about our annual report for this fiscal year. And I think we could probably incorporate some of that storytelling into our annual report, don't you think? So, yeah, so I think we could move in that direction even before your term is up. Okay, I think I'm understanding where we are. This survey then, to your point, Dr. McGraw, will distribute this again through the Microsoft Forms to each of the members of the executive committee. It'll go out early next week, and we'll have a deadline so that we can compile the results before you meet on the 8th, so you have those results for the executive committee meeting on the 8th. And then we'll have for the June meeting, proposed survey for next year. And Ms. Stewart, if you don't mind, I might try to get on your calendar just to get your feedback about how to approach that, since this will be the questionnaire. Dr. McGraw and I worked pretty closely on this questionnaire, so it feels like if I could work with you on next year's questionnaire, that would be helpful.
Okay, yep, just let me know.
Cool, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
I think we managed to, with that, cover the item 5 too.
Yeah. We took right into it.
Y'all are efficient this morning.
Anything else before? All right, the executive committee adjourned.
Thank you.
We got 5 minutes.
Martin,
Yes.
or, I don't know,